everybody. This is Ron Sparkman from OpportunityU.com, and today our guest is Fraser Cain, the publisher of possibly my favorite website on all the internets, Universe Today, as well as co-host of Astronomy Cast. How's it going today, sir? How are you?
Good. Thanks for having me, Ron.
Glad to have you, man. Honestly, you know, your website is just really amazing. It's an incredible resource, one that I use quite often, not only for my studies, but for things that we do at the Space Foundation. And so I'm really glad to have you on today. So first up, I want to kind of talk to you about what sparked your love of space and astronomy.
Well, I have always been interested in space and astronomy since I was a little kid. And I can sort of remember various moments that happened in my childhood that got me interested. My parents were really into space and astronomy and science fiction, and they got me watching Star Trek when I think I was like 4 years old, and I really liked that. Where I lived was really nice dark skies, and so there was really good views of the Milky Way and the stars, and we would go out for meteor showers and really kind of appreciate that. My dad was had watched the moon landings live. And so when the space shuttle went off in 1981, anyway, he got me up early to watch the space shuttle take off for the first time, and we were quite excited about that. So I had these great series of books from Time Life, I think, called Our Universe was the book that I just loved the most, and I would just read through this book over and over and over again. It was just dog-eared. And when I was a teenager, I got my own telescope. Must have been like 14. I saved up my money and bought a telescope and then was out observing every night. When I was in high school, I took journalism in my high school class, and I did a series of columns about space and astronomy, about what constellations were up, what you could see in the night sky. It's weird that I took a diversion into software development for as many years as I did, and then was able to find my way back to my first love and make a career out of it.
And that's actually something that's kind of interesting. I won't lie, for until a few months ago, I actually thought you were an astronomer. I thought that was your job that you went to college for, but you're a software developer, something that you still love and you still kind of dabble in. So that makes the story of Universe Today kind of a unique one. So what began as a hobby for a citizen scientist has become one of the most popular astronomy websites in the world. So can you tell us a little bit about those kind of circumstances that drove that, and when you knew this was turning into something special?
Sure. Yeah. So I was worked for web development. I started a couple of startups in Vancouver with some friends of mine, and I was working for this company, and we gotten pretty large. We were a web development company out of Vancouver, and we were building websites for banks and electricity companies and things like that. And I knew that the work that I was doing online wasn't as good. Like, I knew there were better ideas that I wanted to try and test out, but my clients would never let me do it. So I figured I'll start a website on the side. I will sort of use that as my playground to try out all my crazy ideas about interacting and engaging with people and building various kinds of news into it, and then use those ideas back for my clients. And so it totally worked. And so I went through my list of hobbies, what things I like to do. I was into video games. I was into mountain biking. I was into hiking. I was into space. And so I picked all the ones, which was the one that I wanted to learn more about, become more knowledgeable about. And I picked space. Started up the website on the side. And within days, my thinking about how to run a website and how you would engage with people on the internet had totally changed. And within months, I totally knew what my new career was going to be, which was that I was really kind of done building websites for other people, and I wanted to do it for myself. And then it was just a matter of figuring out how to turn that into a career, which took a few more years. But that's how I sort of made that transition. And it's like when you fall in love, you just know immediately what you're going to want to do with the rest of your life.
And I agree entirely. It kind of came out of nowhere for me. I was sitting home one night and Cosmos came on at the end of that first episode. There's something about reading about how big the universe is and then visually seeing it with the science communicator like Neil deGrasse Tyson telling you what's going on. And, like yourself and like so many others, once you hear it, It blows your mind. It actually, and I find another interesting thing too is that so many people that are into space are people that are hikers and explorers. I know quite a few people. Last year I did the Everest Base Camp trek, and on the way up, there's stickers of NASA and a couple of different ones. And there's one of the astronauts. I forgot his name right now, but he actually did Everest.
Yeah, I
So
remember
he was the
that.
first person to Everest. Yeah. So it's fascinating how many people really, it's that exploration. It's once you know what's out there, it makes your own world kind of a little bit more fascinating to kind of look around and think of there's other places out there like this, but just a little different. So it's kind of interesting. Yeah. So yeah, that was kind of the beginning was Universe Today, and then a few years later, you started moving forward with Astronomy Cast that you do with Dr. Pamela Gay, who she actually was at our Rocky Mountain Star Stare here in Colorado Springs. Well, actually, it wasn't here; it was in Gardner. But for the Rocky Mountain Star Stare, she was the keynote speaker at this.
Oh, great!
Year, so. Yeah, everybody was really excited about that. So that was she was our big draw, of course. So can you tell us about the show's history, how that kind of came about, and what will a new listener expect to hear whenever they tune in for the first time?
Sure. So, okay. So Astronomy Cast is an idea that once podcasting started up and I started to get into podcasts, I absolutely fell in love with the medium and knew that podcasting was something that I wanted to do because I just enjoyed it as a way, as a listener, and because I was a media creator, something that I wanted to do. So I actually came up with this idea to do something that was less news, because I was doing news with Universe Today, and something that would sort of more stand the test of time, something that there would be, the concepts that would be covered in this show would still be relevant 10 years, 20 years later. So I reached out to my buddy Phil Plait, of course, he's the bad astronomer, and I was like, do you want to do a podcast together? And he's like, dude, I am so busy. I can't do it. I don't have time. But Dr. Pamela Gay—
He never stops.
Yeah, I know. He's super busy, right? So Dr. Pamela Gay, he said, she's available. She actually just wrapped up her podcast and has, she has room on her agenda. So I contacted her. I'd been listening to their podcast. So I reached out to her, pitched the idea to her. And within, I would say, it must have been within 3 or 4 days, we had finished our first episode. Like, it was clear that it was going to work. There was a lot of the themes of Astronomy Cast we'd sort of really figured out was just this cordial, master and pupil relationship where she is the expert and I am the excited amateur and am probing her for more information. It's this kind of Plato, Aristotelian sort of approach to learning. And it just worked really well. Supernatural. She had all the ideas in her head. I mean, the amazing part about Pamela is that she just knows so much about all of this stuff, right?
Yes, she does.
Yeah, and people don't even realize that she has no idea the questions I'm going to ask her in advance. She does the best that she can to do a little bit of prep, and especially if there's going to be specific dates and stuff. But I just, I'm just like, what about this? What about that? Squirrel! And then we just keep going. And to her credit, she's got all this information locked in her brain. So that was so I pitched that idea to her. We did the show. We just kept doing them. And, here we are now. We're in season 10. 450, however many episodes there are in the can at this point. And we're still going strong. We have a massive list of future topics. I'm as excited about this stuff now as I was when we started. It's still such a great fit between us. So that's kind of how we got into Astronomy Cast.
And you guys really do have excellent chemistry together. And you're kind of the avatar for the people at home. We've all got those millions of questions that I wish I had an astrophysicist to ask all these questions of. Like, can you tell me this? Because I really want to know this. And we're all fascinated. And you get one that you just get to kind of pour it out, and other people get to enjoy that excitement with you. And it's I think the most interesting thing is that it seems like the people that love this never get bored of it. There's always something new. A few months ago we thought there was hundreds of billions of galaxies. Now we're at trillions. We continue to find out these interesting things, and there's always something new to learn. And I think that's one of the big things. So if you have a favorite episode, what would you recommend for people that maybe you're listening for the first time?
I would say one of the things that we say at the beginning of every episode is that we're not just what we know, but how we know what we know, right? That knowledge and science is this process of experimentation and gathering data and confirming our observations and overturning our assumptions. And so we did a really great series within Astronomy Cast, which we called, mysteries, and it kind of blew up. So we originally were going to do just a couple of episodes about mysteries in astronomy, and then we eventually did mysteries of the solar system, mysteries of the galaxy, and just sort of mysteries of the universe, and just talked about the things that we have no idea what they are, and as far as our science has taken us so far. And I really enjoyed that process, because we all look at this stuff in astronomy and go, well, we know that the Earth goes around the sun, and we know that there are ice caps on Mars, and there's various things that we know. We know that black holes exist, but there's a whole other range of things that we're in the middle of science figuring these things out. We're trying to figure out what dark matter is. We're trying to figure out what dark energy is. We're trying to solve these problems, and it's being happened, and it's messy, and it's just happening right in front of our eyes. And so, when people come and they take a look at this stuff, they don't realize that they are watching the science unfold in real time, and to be patient and to be excited by the mystery and to sort of enjoy watching the outcomes unfold. And I really enjoy that. So that series of episodes, I think, is one of my favorites.
That's amazing, and I think that's really kind of where we're all at, is that continual excitement of it. You never know what's next, and there's all these things out there. Yeah. You look at, we know 4% of the other 96%. We don't even know what dark matter and dark energy are. We're just kind of making stuff up as we go along, and that's really kind of an amazing part of it. But even with the mystery side of it, there is really my favorite part of the website that you guys do is the stuff that we do know. It's a guide to space. You do the show, and you have the articles as well. And so you, Matt Williams, you guys have done an incredible job creating this easy to digest information for people that really anybody can pick up and read. It's for all ages, all education levels, and especially that twice weekly YouTube series. So can you kind of fill us in a little bit on what it is and what inspired the creation of that?
Well, I found that, in doing a lot of the research for a lot of the articles that we were doing, there was a lot of material that I was just kind of going back to again and again and again. There was the new news coming out of Pluto, but there was sort of this underlying information that sort of would help build a person up to be able to feel very comfortable with that next level of the knowledge. And so it was really just an accident. Someone was asking me why Pluto wasn't a planet anymore, and I'm like, well, I'll just write an explainer on the website, and it ended up being one of the most popular articles that we'd ever done. And so I realized that there was this demand not only for just like what's the breaking news, but to keep going back and really helping understand the underlying information, the concepts that aren't necessarily news oriented. And it's really the same thing that we've been doing with Astronomy Cast, which is that as much as there is a hunger for the breaking news, the new stuff, there is equally a hunger for the sort of the underlying information and structure, and to really give people a very deep understanding of just everything that's going on. So, now I know this, and all the work that I always do now is very much in these two camps. Like, I want to tell you what's breaking, which is, what's all the new stuff. And that's what the Weekly Space Hangout does, and that's what a lot of the news on Universe Today does. But then I also want to help you just sort of understand and put into context all of the stuff in space and astronomy. There's a ton of material, and that's what the Guide to Space is for, and that's what Astronomy Cast is for, and those two really go hand in hand.
And it's really just about the most complete. I mean, it's just what you guys have put together is really something you can go to any planet. If there's something you want to know about it, generally it's almost all of the information that's out there on it. We at the Space Foundation, we did a big Journey to Mars presentation on the science on the sphere that we use. We actually use it. It doesn't just sit there. I don't know if you've seen one before. I'm sure that you have. So it's NOAA Science on the Sphere, and we were doing this big Journey to Mars presentation that we we created it and did it all through the summer and kind of get everybody excited about it. And one of the things we just kept coming back to was, we're hitting University A and Mars, and just some of the facts that blow people's minds. You tell people that you take, Valles Marineris, stretch it across the United States, and it's going to go from Disneyland to Disney World. And, kids just love that. It fascinates them. And, it kind of puts it into perspective, just how much we already know. And
absolutely. And it's funny how much work it is, because, in some cases, I mean, these things, Valles Marineris, these facts don't change, but the reality is that we are discovering new things all the time with the rovers, with the orbiters, with the new discoveries, and we have to update these articles all the time, which is funny. It's actually, once you sort of plant your flag and say, okay, we're going to try and give you an overview of, the planet Mars, there's an expectation now that we have to keep coming back and rewriting it and adding new pictures and changing a bunch of stuff. It's a real living document. It's an interesting challenge, to say the least, because, when our writers are reporting on some news, they have to kind of keep the conduit open to Matt, who is curating the encyclopedia, to go, this is new, that's out of date, this has changed. So it's a very complicated job. And I feel like we're just, I mean, you say it's very comprehensive, but I really feel like we're just starting to really understand what's involved. And it's a lot more work than I think I ever thought it would be.
But we certainly appreciate the fact that it's out there, because it's that resource you can get to quickly, and the fact that you're continuing to do it. You're not just letting it sit there and age, because I mean, what are we going to learn from Juno next week? What are we going to learn from Curiosity today? There's an ocean underneath Pluto's heart. We found that out a week ago.
We better update that article.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I know that's got to continuously go through your mind. So the fact that you have people working on it all the time is really great for those of us that are trying to keep us as up to the minute as possible, especially other people that are out there that are trying to communicate that thing. The volunteers of the Space and Science Museums, all these people that want to share that, having that resource is really kind of big. And not just that, but you guys, besides the Guide to Space show, there's quite a few shows that you have now. But they're very much edutainments. You get this really in-depth information, and you try to keep it humorous. And I think that's really kind of one of those things that is what's making science connect with so many people now, is that we figured out if you put humor in it, if you put humor in anything, people will listen to it. Look at John Oliver. John Oliver made the news funny, and people pay attention. So it's really one of those things.
Well, it's a big credit to Jay Harmer, who was my sort of co-creator on the Guide to Space for the first couple of 100 episodes. These are the videos that we do on the YouTube channel. Which was that, I was sort of approaching it very much more like a standard, like, here's the thing, and I'm going to explain it. And he was putting in, he was injecting his sort of weird science fiction, cultural in-jokes and potty humor and all kinds of stuff into the scripts themselves. And it sort of made something that was a lot more entertaining. We make all kinds of references to video games and movies and things like that, and it made them a lot more fun to make, and I think a lot more fun to watch, right? I mean, I don't know if, maybe Neil deGrasse Tyson is going to make Witcher 3 references and such in his, and Half-Life 2, measuring the distance to Alpha Centauri and how long it's going to take for Half-Life 3 to come out. But so I think that we that being able to put in that humor, for me anyway, really kind of it was sort of a creative risk, and in the end it worked out to be great, and I really enjoyed sort of what it did. So we've almost toned it back a little. We were trying too hard in the beginning, and now it's a little more sort of a bit of a balance between ironic humor and science.
And the connection of, really doing the pop culture, especially the nerd stuff. There's so many people that, you go to some of these science lectures, you go see Michio Kaku, or you go see Bill Nye, or you go see Neil deGrasse Tyson. And there are certainly going to be the older people there that are, that have been into it for a long time and kind of take it a little bit more seriously. But there's a lot of people like me that are running around with smart ass science shirts on, and, they've got piercings and tattoos, and they're the younger group that have connected with it because of the humor in those things. And that allows allows you to connect to just pretty much any audience. You know, you make a Half-Life joke, and you know the majority of us are going to push our glasses back and giggle. You know?
Yeah, exactly.
We completely understand it. So, and that's something that I think is really important right now, is just making sure that as interesting as we can make it, because it really is fascinating if you tell it the right way. You have to be storytellers, and that's certainly what you guys are doing, and you're doing really a great job with it. So, for other people that are out there, I mean, you know, there's so many of us that love space and science that look at what you created so far and what you guys are working on as what's possible in this community if you're passionate about what you do. When I first got into it, I was worried. I'm an ex-DJ. You know, I've done all this other stuff. Are people really going to be okay? They're going to be cool with it, and the community is very opening. It's very welcoming. And so you were able to take your love of astronomy and you built a successful website, online community, and inspires kids of all ages to really look up and wonder. So do you have any words of advice for upcoming scientists, journalists that really want to become science communicators like you and your team are, and be able to share their love of the universe?
Well, I mean, the wonderful thing about the internet is that it is completely, there are no barriers. There's no gatekeepers telling you what you can and can't say and what you can't do. That, you know, with a cell phone and an internet connection, you are producing videos. With a word processor, you are blogging, you are reporting on the news. With a microphone, you're a podcaster, and you have the same access to a worldwide audience that someone from a established traditional mainstream media group has. And there's a great thing. I think that a lot of people look at these media, you know, they look at YouTube and they look at podcasting as a step on their more legitimate media career, that eventually you're going to get a television gig or whatever. I don't want that. I think that misses the point, which is that the future is already here. It has arrived. That YouTube is a better and greater method of communication that allows you to reach a wider audience and engage with them on a level that was just unheard of in the past. Like, I don't know how often Anderson Cooper sits and chats with the people watching his show live, but these are the things that we can do. So I think that, you know, that if you want to be a science communicator, the tools are all at your disposal. There's never been a greater environment for you to be able to do what you love. Get cracking. Beyond that, I mean, you kind of have to show up every day, right? You gotta come, you gotta do the work, you gotta be okay with nobody watching it and listening to it and so on in the beginning. You know, where we stand now, I think I have 760 videos on my channel, which I started doing really about 3 years ago. We went pretty hard on that. I've got 20,000 articles on Universe Today, and we've done, as I said, 500-ish, well, about 500 episodes of Astronomy Cast when you include all the question shows. So just keep showing up, just keep swimming, but if you wanna communicate, if you enjoy this, the tools are all ready to go. So I'm really excited, and I love seeing all of the new people that do show up and do want to help out in communicating the science. And I try to do as much work as I can to help promote them, invite them into the things that I'm doing. Literally today, as we're recording this, I just pushed live a collaboration on YouTube that I did with Isaac Arthur, who's this wonderful futurist science communicator who does these great, super in-depth, long videos about he really goes into the weeds about mining asteroids and terraforming worlds and the singularity and things like that. And it was an absolute pleasure to work with. I found him on YouTube. I became a fan of his work, reached out to him, said, let's do a collaboration. We just posted a big 2-part episode about colonizing the solar system. So, if you're a science communicator and you want to be a part of the community, I'm glad to help promote you and help you get your work out there even further. So I think there's a great community here to help out. The tools are ready to go. What are you waiting for?
And that's actually, something that you're really good about. Actually, really, the whole organization. That maybe some people don't know if they're not following you really on all of your avenues. Instagram, always bringing on astrophotographers that allow them to get what they're doing out to the world, and it's such an interesting thing in the community. Otherwise, Astronomy Cast, you're taking questions, not only your questions, but you're grabbing the questions from the other people that are asking it, and especially what you guys are doing with Patreon when it comes to what you guys are producing and allow people to be involved with, and that it's a working towards a goal that it's going to make what you guys are doing really readily available to everyone. The Patreon, especially the behind the scenes, the bloopers are hysterical. If anybody's not been on Patreon, it really is one of those great things where creators and the people that support them can really kind of come together and kind of do these things almost together. It creates even more of that community, and it's something you guys are really great with. What made you decide to go with that avenue, especially and that and your Instagram? I love the Instagram of utilizing other things. You guys are really experts at social media.
Oh, well, thank you. My philosophy on all this stuff is that the fans are as good and as as much of an expert about this stuff as we are as the creators. And so, when I have communications on Twitter and on YouTube comments, people are picking apart the things that I've done, and they know as much about this as I do. The Weekly Space Hangout, for example, is a good example of how we've really embraced the community, and I've pretty much handed over the reins of the show to the community. So I am the host, but they tell me who they want as the guests. And the great example, the first time that we did that was, I think, was with Baz Lander, the guy from the Mars One. Yeah. And someone was like, you should get him on as a guest. And I'm like, tell you what, just tell him you're the executive producer of the Weekly Space Hangout. Tell him that you want him on the show, and then I'll interview him. And so they did, and it worked, and he was on the show, and we interviewed him. And so now all of the people in the WSH crew, the Weekly Space Hangout crew, they are the producers of the show. It's their show. It's not my show. I donate the part that I can, which is to be on, host and interview people and switch cameras and provide gear and so on. But they coordinate a lot of the behind the scenes and bring in the guests. So I think, that sort of, I think a lot of people give lip service to engaging with their fans and engaging with their public on the internet. And I try to take it to the next level, which is place a lot of my trust and in the hands of the people who are fans of what we're creating, and let them, not necessarily, drive exactly what I'm doing, but give them a tremendous amount of sort of cooperation in what we're creating. And that's really important to me. And that theme, you'll see this theme again and again and again over on Instagram. Like you said, we hand over the account every day. We give the keys of our Instagram account to a different person, different astrophotographer every day, and just let them go crazy, whatever they want to do, right?
Yeah.
I trust you to not wreck this. There's some checks and balances in place, but I try. I've seen the work that you've done. You're a great photographer. I know that we're in safe hands, and I very rarely have things have gone wrong by me trusting people. Like, it's almost always 99.9% gone well, because people are essentially good and they want to help and they want to make the things better. So Patreon is the sort of the perfect fit for that. Cole Palmer, who was our contact at Patreon, one of the early people there, he was a big fan of Astronomy Cast, and he reached out. They must have been like in the first couple of months, and he was like, here's this thing, Patreon, are you interested? And we could see right away that it was totally the future, the way that in a perfect world, to take that connection between me and the audience and the fans to the next level, that right now, really the work that we're doing is for the advertisers, right? For the Google and for the advertisers on YouTubes and stuff, right? They're the people who are really paying the content creation. But wouldn't it be amazing if, like, when you go to a movie, you buy a ticket to the movie? If you listen to music, you pay for the music, in theory. So wouldn't it be amazing if people could just directly support us? And so here we are, I don't know, like 3 years into Patreon, and it's definitely been a very slow burn. I think we're up to about 700 patrons who support us every week, and we do a bunch of sort of special stuff for them. We give them advanced access to what we're doing. We give them behind the scenes stuff. I remove all the advertising from Universe Today for them, so they don't see any ads on the site. So we're trying to sort of do more and more stuff with them. We give them advanced access to when we're doing interesting get-togethers, things like that. That is, you know, and in the future, I would love if I could just remove all the advertising from the website and just be purely working for the fans themselves. And that is the inevitable future that I see. It's just a matter of us getting from where we were to where the future will be. So it's an amazing resource. And if you're a creator, start your Patreon page immediately, right? Because we all started with 0 patrons, and then get into that habit of being there and present for your fans and learning what kind of information they want to see, and building that real symbiotic relationship with them as your patrons, as your consumers. It's an amazing experience. I highly recommend it.
So if there's people out there that are listening that are interested in being a part of the community, where can they find you? Website, the Astronomy Cast, social media. Can you give them some details where they can look you up?
Yeah. So the website, of course, is Astronomy Cast. Is Universe Today, right? And that's that's like the core, the original thing. Over on Instagram, we're Universe Today. On Twitter, we're Universe Today. On YouTube or Universe Today. So, you know, you'll see those echoes throughout all of the different social medias that we're on. And each one of those places, you'll sort of see how the community reveals itself. And of course, go to patreon.com/Universe Today if you want to support directly what we're doing.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for your time today. We appreciate you coming on, and everything that you're doing is incredible. Please keep up the great work, and we'll continue to be your rabid fans. So thank you everybody for listening today, and we look forward to seeing you next Friday on the next show. Bye.
Thanks for having me.